gotta be a real hots. And plastic ones are there to just help you. Also, you'll see up on your blackboard, there's a lab outline of what you need to know for the hot. That'll correspond to the pages in your lab book. So you look at the pictures in your lab book, you do your hot. So, I mean, that's kind of clear cut. I believe you guys will have a tutor Fridays.
Yes.
Fridays, huh?
Friday for the lab.
Yeah, the tutor for you guys. So you have Belinda and you'll have a tutor.
Is it like open lab kind of? Or,
That lab is sharing with all Gizmo, so it's going to be breaking it down, setting it up, breaking it down, which is kind of stupid because you had AP1 only has 4 sections. So after Tuesday, there's no lab, so that room sits empty the rest of the week. So AP1 and AP2 could have gone to the same room because everything we need for AP2 is in room AP1. So they're going to wheel it down and wheel it back. So that's going to be all semester. You're going to be doing a lot of physio wax. There's no biopack. We took it right out because it never works. So physio wax means you're going to be doing a lot of stuff on the computers, which kind of makes it easier for you as groups. So the first practical really just encompasses the cardiovascular system. Really, because you're going to go move fast to do in the lab. So that's pretty much how it works, okay? So let's not run that by you. So you'll have me for the lecture. I set up the practicals, so we should be fine. All right, so now you notice the code, this has changed from what you had last semester. Because it might have ended for you to be able to get back into your Pearson stuff. That's the new course ID, 38085, my name in front. So you might have to put into that, and you'll be able to get in. Because your code and book is good for a year.
I tried that code last night, it didn't work.
This one,
Yeah.
then you'll have to contact Pearson.
Okay.
Because the book is guaranteed for 1 whole year of function for you to be online. Because you bought that when you bought the pack. If you bought the brand new book in September, that's good till next September. So, did you have a code from last semester?
Yeah.
Did that work, so?
No, it says that I'm not part of that class anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, so what you guys have to do is call the number in digit.
Okay.
All right, just tell them right out. When you sold this to CCRI, you were told this is a 1-year deal. AP2 and AP1 using the same books, the same online access, so they let it grant you. Because that will happen, they'll contact me, and I'll tell them, you better do it, or I'm not buying the time. In the fall, we'll change books, we'll go to Roaring Hill and school year. Problem is, the person that I normally deal with is not on maternity. So I can send her an email, and it would get fixed right away. She's on maternity leave, so things are kind of like, screwed up. But then, you still should have that access. That's not right. For the lab, the lecture, that's all part of that practice there that you do. Okay? So, my point is, shoot them an email, fight them, so call, whatever, how many you do it, they're going to do it. You understand? Has anybody tried and you haven't got in? How about you? Nobody else has tried to get in? No. Go in with the new code, then contact them. Okay? Just contact them and say, no, this is good for a year. So we were told a year. Not a semester, a year. All right? I don't access the code for a year, but that don't make a difference. We open up a new course and you should have access into it. Because when they check you, they're going to see you bought the product. You know what you should do is put you still have your initial. Yeah.
Yeah.
That you initially opened it with. Try that. With the new course ID and see if it'll let you in. Because that code should be good for a year. You know that 9 days or whatever, it's like 15 minutes, you know,
Yeah.
if you still have that, try that. Okay? So I'll do attendance in about a half hour, make sure he gets here. So there's the syllabus, same as before. similar. The only difference is to be in this class, you have to have had passed AP201 with a grade of a C or better. Okay? Now, you don't need an A or B to take this course. You know, 2201, but to apply to the program you're going to apply to, you can do it. Okay? It's the same thing, the written 70%, the lab is 30%. So that all stays the same. You're going to get 2 practicals in lab again and 3 written. Okay? So there's not much difference here. You won't want to read, so that's good. We're not going to somewhere else.
So, do you need the web version for the lecture book or just for the lab one?
Yeah, but you kind of don't need it. You know, if you come to all the if you come to all the lectures and all the labs, it's just another access for you to study from.
Okay.
That's all it is. In other words, it's practice tests, practice quizzes. You know, on the material we've talked about. That's about it. Okay? I mean, could you get through this course without it? And the answer is yeah.
Okay.
Could you get an A in the course? Yeah.
Because I have like a hard copy of the lecture book, but the lab book is closed. So I didn't know if I needed to close the lecture book as well, because I was running it on Amazon.
You don't have the lab book.
No, I do have the lab book with the web code, but I didn't know if I needed like a web code for the.
No, it should work for both. It should kind of work. It should let you in for both. So to get to the lab book, it's kind of similar. So if it's lab, it's going to let you go to town and go to physio-X. Town's a good way of studying anatomy, physio-X, and physiology stuff, because that'll be the same experiments we've done. So to look at that, you know, to get ready for practical, it would help, okay? So enough of that stuff, okay? So, nitty-gritty. So when AP1 started with, you know, chemicals, chemistry, and cell function and all that, well, you know all that now. So now we go right to the systems. So we're going to start with the heart first. The vascular system, you know, the arteries and veins and capillaries, and talk about pressure, gradients, and blood pressure, and all that stuff. And we'll talk about the blood itself, and go through each cell, what each cell does, and then the kind of diseases that would mess up these cells. Same thing here, we'll talk about disease. So today's lecture is going to be mainly anatomy, and then next week we start with physiology. Okay? So, that's about it. Any questions? How many are applying for nursing next month? Quite a few. How about other programs? So that means the majority will be applying. You all got B or better, right? For the strange, the different people, I don't know, did you take AP1 here last semester?
No, I took it at Flanagan.
All right. Well, use the same book. It'll make a difference. How many took it in Flanagan? Who'd you have, Kathy?
First I had Dr. Gilman and then Professor Harrison.
Oh yeah, that's Kathy. Kathy, yeah. Yeah, Harrison. She's good. So she teaches here too. So it's, how many took it in Providence? Who'd you have, Alana?
Yeah.
Golf? So you had golf too?
Yeah, Dr. G.
So you have a strong base. So you guys have good foundation then, good. That's all that counts. You have the main professors of those campuses, you have good foundation. Our approach is a little different. I test different. You're gonna find one of those hot asses they are. That's pretty much what it comes down to, a little more lenient. I don't, you know, Belinda's the same way in the lab. Belinda's fine for lab. So you'll be fine with her. So you will. And lab's perfect. She's good. Keep her over there. Put her in lecture and then for lab she's good. She follows suit what she's supposed to do when she does it. And then the other two are gonna be fine. So don't get all the lab's only worth not even a third of the course. So where do you really have to perform? Here. You know that. Almost everybody had good grade in lab by the end. What was the make or break? Was the last written test people took? They either did well on it or they didn't, and that didn't push them up. Okay, so it's the same thing here. All right, so you get 3 exams in here. They're all multiple guess again. All right. Sometimes there'll be pictures you fill in, but they're filled in with multiple choice. So everything's going to run on a multiple. It's faster to get it back to you. Yes.
Any short answers?
No.
No? Golf channel, those.
Why don't we do short answers? Because when you do short answer in writing tests like that, there's too much gray. You can argue a point. If it's A, B, C, or D, you can't argue a point. It's one of those answers and that's it. So the most objective way to test is multiple choice. And you can build questions that build off one another, and I do that, okay? When you do your board someday, it'll be all multiple. Again, late, like last semester. So this is why I don't do attendance, by the way, because you can see it's like it's wasting time. All right, so when we look at the heart, we realize it's positioned in the chest, correct? In the thoracic cavity. But what's a more exact way of saying where is it in the thoracic cavity? It's in the middle mediastinum. It takes up the whole middle mediastinum. Because the anterior mediastinum is the thymus, and the posterior are all the vessels and nerves running up and down. So it's in the middle mediastinum. It takes up all that space. And if you look at it, does it sit totally deep in here? Hell no. So you say, no, it doesn't, right? Because last semester you saw a cadaver being dissected for nervous system. So this semester, next week, we'll start class cadaver dissection of taking the heart and lungs out of the cadaver. So she goes in a lot of good detail and makes it make a lot of sense to you, even with the lungs as we go towards respiratory. So you'll see and learn a lot from doing that, okay? So it's got it's described as left axial deviation. And some people have more than others, which does shift the ECG when they're doing it. And you can tell how much axis they have. So there's variations between everybody's. They never look like, depending on what lead you're reading, on the pre-caudal leads, and this is why we don't do it anymore with the biopackers. You put 1, 2, 3. You're not going to get a good ECG without putting leads on the chest. So you don't. But depending on what lead you're reading, it's going to emphasize that area of the heart, and you never get that beautiful picture that you see perfect like that. There's going to be variations in it because of where are you reading the heart, okay? So it actually picks up the electrical impulse the heart creates. One other thing I want to show you is, like especially like in black and stuff, is you can't put the heart in tension. And that's because of those intercalated discs that you learned when we looked at cardiac tissue that lets this calcium flow all over the place, and that's what breaks it off. The moving of the calcium channels, the way they work, keeps the heart from going to tension. So it won't. And you'll do an experiment next week with PhysioX, hitting it with the legs like, zapping the crap out of it, and it doesn't go to 10 beat. And all it goes right back to normal beat again at the 11th portion. Okay, so it's fascinating to watch that difference between skeletal muscle, cardiac. The only downfall of cardiac muscle, which we're going to be into big time, it needs oxygen all the time when it dies, where skeletal does not. There was a good case to show on the resident of a person that was a professional soccer player. He had rhabdomyolysis of his muscles were wasting away, eating destruction of them. And he was so sick, this person, that injuries got worse than they should be because they had mitochondrial disease. Kind of was your paper that you worked on, mitochondrial disease. So it is real, people. It causes a lot of system breakdown because of the breakdown of muscle, including this muscle. You affect this too. Muscle has mitochondria. If I got a disease in it, it's not going to metabolize properly. So it's pretty fascinating. So we look at it there and we see that, remember we said that second intercostal space, how do we find it? What would you guys are finding the second intercostal space? It's this. Well, not the sternum, but what part of the sternum that I'm touching. Where two bones meet, the sternal angle. So when you come off the angle, you're in rib 2, just come down, you're on intercostal space 2, and I can hear my aortic and pulmonary valve. So here you go. So the auscultator heart. You should add that. So the auscultator heart. I think you do, you can add that blood pressure and auscultating the heart. So when you get that stethoscope to the right, you listen to the aortic valve. When you put it over to the left, pulmonary valve. Then when I come down to the fifth intercostal space, on the right, the tricuspid, on the left, the mitral. So today we're going to learn all these parts. So we have valves here. Why is it a big deal to listen to the valves? Pass my fire.
The flow.
Right. What are you listening to when you hear a valve? Go ahead, raise your hand. Open and closing. And what happens when they don't open and close perfectly? Right. What? Right. Blood is not moving in one direction or backing in another direction. And what do you hear? And the swishing is what? Right. But what's the proper name of the swishing? A murmur. So a murmur has nothing to do with the cardiac beat. You know, like this word, you get extra beat. Well, yeah, you can from it. But a murmur within itself, its own definition, is a high volume of fluid being pushed through an opening creates a sound. In a normal environment, you don't hear it. But if there's something wrong with the opening it's going through, now I can hear it. And depending on when I hear it, when I time my heart rate, it's either regurgitation or stenosis. So you learn about, and the most common valve they always talk about is this one here, the mitral. The person that gets mitral regurgitation or mitral stenosis. And that's pretty significant. If it is significant, stenosis or regurgitation, that person will never be able to walk up one flight of stairs. So, why? Why is this sound so significant? She was saying. So what happens when blood doesn't move in the direction it's supposed to? Why is that? And you hit right on the head, you're not getting oxygen. The heart's not getting oxygen, the body's not getting oxygen. So you have issues. Okay, so something just that we just started off listening to a heart. So you want to learn this stuff? Practice. You don't have a stethoscope, buy one. And buy a cuff. Practice, practice, practice makes you perfect. So you know how to place a stethoscope on the chest. Before they went to just doing boards on computers, you got to perform this. In the doctor world, you still have to perform this and they watch you. Like one power, say, auscultate the chest, the heart. Time it. You better know what the hell you're doing. Because you're going to lose points. So you're going to put it all over here, right? Or you're going to favor this side. Is it possible for a heart to be on the wrong side? Oh, yes. It happens. We have a dextro cardio set up. The heart's on the inside of the chest. The person would have known that by the time you would see them. Okay? So, believe it or not, this is still the number one killer. Cardiovascular disease over all your cancers. Put them all together. Still the number one killer. So we all worry about getting cancer. How about the heart? Have a heart attack. You think you're going to be good after that? Depending on how severe you damaged it, you know. I mean, the meds help you live longer, but you're still going to have issues. And there's always a risk of a second, and so forth. Okay, so just think of that. It's a very important organ. And this is big in med-surg stuff. They love this in nursing. You know, they had a whole, one of my sisters came by yesterday in the lab, so she's in the third semester of nursing. That's what it started. A whole lecture on this. The abnormalities of the EKGs, the ECGs, and all that stuff, and you know, the reverse waves, and all. What does it mean? And so, I mean, it's stuff it's going to stay with you. So if you get the foundation down, you can learn the abnormality from it. But if you never get the foundation down, you're not going to understand. So learn all its parts. And the easy way to learn the parts is just trace a drop of blood through the heart. Which we'll do a little later on. Because I didn't know all the parts. And sometimes, on your first test, that's a bonus question. Trace the drop of blood. So for those who like to write, because somebody was asking, sure, there would be one. You'd write it out for me. And you can get up to 10 points. Because I'll throw a disease there too. You know the disease, and how would you figure it out? Might as well start doing that with you. Because if all goes well, in September you're touching patients. Imagine that. You're not that far away anymore, are you? By this time next year, you're in nursing too. Damn. A couple of years, I'm all done. Seems so far away last fall, but now as we're starting to get into this, it's not that far away anymore, people. So think about it. Less than in 9 months, you're touching patients. So we better make kind of the best I can make out of you. Why do we learn it? So you don't hurt anybody. After these 2 courses, you're going to have so much knowledge of the body. Use it. Think about it. Seriously. Okay, so then it sits in a sac, the heart, right? Yeah, we talked about these with serous membranes. When we talked about that, when we went into the different tissues and stuff. In the fall, we talked about serous membranes. These things are all over the body. We're going to line the chest cavity, line the heart, line the abdominal cavity. And serous membranes are made up of both epithelial and connective. And the good thing about it is one will line the organ, which will be the visceral, and one lines the cavity, which is parietal, because parietal means wall. So it lines the cavity, right? And it has a space, and in the space is a fluid, serous fluid, which is like a lubricant. And can we mess up that lubricant? Yes. And what do we can mess it up? Well, we get pericarditis, right? Which is cardiac tamponade. That's your first disease. And you've seen this if you watch your Grey's and that, all that, you know, in between the love scenes, they actually touch a patient, and the person just collapses, and their jugular is distended, it's bumping their heart sounds, pressure. Oh, they got cardiac tamponade. So then they have to tap the heart and draw fluid out of it. Because it's almost like a boa constrictor, crushing it. So every time the heart would contract, it can't re-expand. That's going to affect output. Because the ventricle will open up as wide as it should to fill the same. Because in theory, every contraction should push the same amount of blood. And we're going to learn again in physiology. The most common thing to affect output is rate. Your heart rate changes. But the volume of it should never change. Unless there's disease entities in the heart. That should always stay the same. So here we are, we have Beck's triad, which is giving me jugular. Why did we see distension? Well, what happens when the sewer backs up in your house? Does it go forward or does it blow back? Huh? It goes back and floods your basement and makes it wonderful. Makes it smell nice. Or septic system, same difference. And they usually going to go back, blow back to the weakest point. So, why does it go backwards? Exactly, so what's not pushing it forward? So the right ventricle is not pushing it forward. So it's gonna pour back into the vena cavas, and I see it. Why is a person nauseated when they're having cardiac issues? We always hear about that, right? They're lightheaded, they're nauseous, discomfort in the chest, the respiratory issues. Why nauseous? To hang with that for a minute.
Changing off the bloods?
I don't know, I'm asking you. You answer in a question form, should answer in an answer. With confidence.
Like changing off the blood?
It's changing of the blood. How?
Because
I know you don't know all this yet, but I'm making you think. You understand what I'm doing to you? I make you think. Take you out of that damn box and think. Because you're going to have to do that someday. Nothing walks in the room like the book says. There might be one of the faint little symptoms there that is cluing you to a diagnosis someday. And you watch how the doctors, excuse the pun, F up. And you catch their mistakes. And you save the patient. You're with the patient more. You know the patient better. Right? So you're not wrong, but you're not answering it right.
the ventricles have pumping.
So if I can't go in one direction, I'm going in another direction. And guess what? The blood pools in all the venous system around your stomach, so it makes it full, and then it hits it, it comes right back up. You throw up. That's common with CHF. So this is going to almost throw similar signs of CHF, which we're talking about also. So there you go. That's why you get this distension. Why is my blood pressure dropping? What the hell does stroke volume have to do with it? Well, because I can't move the same volume of blood all the time. So instead of moving this 5.5 liters, I'm not. I might be moving 3 liters. Well, that's not good. I cut back the water flow in a pipe, the pressure's going to drop, correct? It's just a system of pipes with a pump. That's all this system is. It's a pump with pipes. Moving a solution around, that's all this is. All this is a fancy pump. And when you break this heart down into that, it's so damn easy to learn. It's a pump. One side goes to the lungs, and one side goes to the body. That's it. And if it don't pump right, the water don't move right. So if you think of it that way, you have no trouble learning it. And you're going to realize we start doing the anatomy, then everything changes name out of 4 valves. Everything else keeps the same names. You know, on the right or left, but the same name. Atrial on either side, ventral on either side. Trabecular cardia on either side. Chordae tendineae, papillary, that will change. Just 4 valves, so you can memorize just 4 valves in your head. I want to show you how to do that too. We apply it to a room in the house. It's like you don't go in the kitchen looking for the toilet bowl, unless you're drunk. Right? Am I wrong? No. You don't go in the bathroom looking for the refrigerator, unless you've got a weird bathroom. You keep your beer in there while you're sitting on the john. No. So they belong in certain rooms. Those valves belong in certain sides of the house. Simple as that. You put them on the right side, you never screw up. On a written or a practical. But if you never put it on the right side because you never bothered learning it, then shame on you. Now, I have videos up on this stuff that will help you with the anatomy part. Through Atomic Med videos. And they're still there on YouTube. Okay, it's like Atomic Bomb, Atomic Med videos. And there'll be a cardio lecture. And these similar lectures will be there in the lab, going over the heart with you. So you have it. I just told it to you, so you have it. So no excuse not to learn it, okay? So the blood pressure is going to drop. Then the other one would be muffled heart sounds. Why? Because the chest cavity is getting thicker. And if you don't respond, the person dies. Then you don't have to worry. Right? was old anyways. Okay. So that's Beck's triad. So I might ask you, like on the, what is cardiac template? Well, the simple name is acute pericarditis. It's inflammation of the pericardium. And how would I diagnose it? I would use Beck's triad. And what are the three things you're looking for? There they are. And that's what you have to do. And I think it's more interesting, this is learning the super parts. Now you're learning why I'm learning this. So that's your first, since we talked about the pericardium, let's throw this disease. Because the most common you're going to deal with all the time, especially if you're doing restaurant work, is CHF, congestive heart failure. Almost every other person laying in those beds have it. Unmistakable, homes wear it up, can't put a new water pump in the same car. So now let's go on. There it is, sitting in that cavity, how pretty, between the lungs. Look how that looks, and look at a real one. Look at this one, much the same. You realize you have a good half-inch of fat around the pericardium. That's the protector. Cushion. So why is it so important to know how much of it hangs out? Well, he sees it. Car accident. Chest smashes into something hard. Fractures are real. Could puncture the left ventricle. If it is, say goodbye to the person. They're going in less than 30 seconds. They'll pull all the blood out of the body that quick. Bleed it all to the cavity or out. Or rupture the aorta. Forget it. That's probably how Prince is saying anything. Rupture the abdominal aorta from that hot blow over an apple. That's what they assume anyway. I think off the blood doctor. It was a rupture abdominal aorta, I think. I don't know. It has to be, yeah. Right. Blew right into her abdomen. So much force. So. Dead before you know it. Okay, so there you go. It's kind of weird. Look at it. This kind of sits right on your diaphragm. Something that you think in life you go to the 15th of space right here. You're gonna go right into the left ventricle. So even though we have ribs protecting it, it's still vulnerable. That's what I want you to realize. Okay. And notice your lungs are really posterior structures. The cardiac area is very anterior. And you see the circle bundles, and that's a beautiful heart. So let's look at some of the parts of this. So this is the basic anatomy, okay? So we have plastic hearts in the lab, so it makes it easy to understand, but you'll be tested on the real ones. Because I want to challenge you a little bit. I want you to think it's that easy. You like a challenge, right? So there you go. All right, so look, we have interventricular sulcus, meaning if I have this sulcus here, I got two key vessels in there. And one is that descending, interventricular artery, or the anterior descending coronary artery. This is your widow artery. Because if I include this thing here, I wipe out most of my left ventricle. That's that massive MI that the person goes down and they don't recruit. And the younger they are, the worse it is. Talk about that again in our certifications. So the younger somebody throws an issue with this. So we form in these arteries plaques. What we were talking about when we hit the blood vessels, how these things form. But there it is. And I was reading a good article one time. It was written by a cardiologist. He was coming back from, and he was a healthy early 50s, ran every day, was in good shape, and he was coming back from a convention, and he was carrying his briefcase and suitcase, and he had terrible left shoulder pain. So I thought he got a shoulder. Took some Advil, went to bed, was okay. Got up and ran the next day 3-4 miles. Well, that night, he throws a massive MI and gets rushed in. He threw one day. He said, but I was lucky. I survived. Imagine that, shoulder pain. Pain inside. Whenever pain's inside the arm, you gotta rule the heart out more so than pain outside the arm. Pain on the outer edge of the arm, usually neuromuscular skeleton. Pain on the inside of the arm pain is could be vascular or some type of respiratory. So it's something going on. And respiratory could be what? An emboli in the lung. So it could be something going on, okay? So there you go. So here's your ventricles. Here's my sulcus. You don't have to learn the arteries and all that. Then we go to the atria, and atria is the entranceway. So you enter the building through the atrium, you enter the heart through the atrium. Depending on where I'm coming from. Coming from the body, I go to the right one. If I'm coming from the lungs, I go to the left one. So veins always drain back to the heart. Arteries always leave it. And usually, when you're looking at your color scheme, arteries are red, the veins are blue, right? Like roses are red, violets are blue. And I'm as sweet as you. Don't you laugh. Blast the right out. Anybody that didn't get it ready, keep leaving the way they are, so I get your grades. So, but I want us to look at that for a second. You guys can read it, I hope. And you see one of them says, pulmonary trunk, aorta, and then the vena cava. So just keep it simple, okay? So does that mean that's a big vein? But look, as we get here, it says, but why is it blue? Who said that? Yeah, why? What's an artery? Should love that you described. But it's an artery. So if I ask you a question on a test, are all arteries rich in oxygen, would that be a false statement?
Yes.
Yes.
Who says yes? I did. Well, she's correct. It is a false statement. Because there's an example. The pulmonary artery is not rich. Because that's taking blood that just returned from the body and pushing it to the lungs to get oxygenated. Wow.
Is that the reason that it's blue?
That's the reason why it's blue. Well, it's pretty too. It's all red. But that's the reason why it's blue. Okay. So, but if I asked you, are all systemic arteries rich in oxygen? Would that statement hold? Yes. Because your systemic arteries would be rich and your systemic veins would be low. Yes, go ahead. We're going to have
I have a question.
Go ahead.
If someone was to have, have a lung removed, what would that do to their blood pressure? Because would the pulmonologist have to?
It'll affect pulmonary blood pressure, not pneumonia.
Okay. I just had a thought. There's the two branches that go off.
Right, so they would
both.
clamp. They would just be clamped. And the heart would just go to one. And the other one would compensate and increase size and shift the cavity. That's what we use the cavities. You take a lung out. So one lung can easily suffice you. Then you have two. But yeah, one can work for both. It's like one kidney can cover both if you ask them. Okay, so, but unfortunately, they got one heart, so they don't have an extra one to go with for screw this one. Okay, so that was a good question. Yeah, pulmonary hypertension is bad. And it could be deadly. Because there's something going on restricting going into those lungs, so that's an issue. But yeah, on the other side, the regular blood pressure should stay the same because you're not affecting the left ventricle. You affect the right, one on the left. And anything just going to drop volume a little bit, but it's going to overcompensate it eventually and bring it to normal. Okay? Good question. See? All right. But then we look, so we see that, then we see we have three branches that come off the arch, which would be brachiocephalic, left common carotid, left subclavian. So you have three big branches. So here's a good tricky question. What's the first branch that comes off the aorta? Everybody's saying brachiocephalic, right? And you're all going to go.
Coronary artery.
Bingo. Coronary artery is. We don't see it, but we're going to get into with the coronary artery, your first branch is because you got to feed the pump first, and I got to drain the pump first. Then I feed the pump. Good. Let me observe the child. You know I was going somewhere when it's something I don't know what you're doing. I'm sure it's false, so you should get 100%.
I get that right now.
That's great. But she's 100% right. Your first two branches off the aorta are the coronary arteries. Look for them when you're looking at the real hearts. Like I showed some of you yesterday where they were. Right? Some of you, I'm all messed up. These first few weeks, I don't know where the hell I am. Forget half the crap in my office as I'm leaving. So that's a good point right there. So what the hell is this thing, the ligamentum arteriosum? The lung? Well, you're kind of in the right direction, but you're not saying it.
The baby.
All right, so part of the fetal circulatory route, because in a fetus, do we need the lungs? I know. Do we want to waste blood going there? I know, because it's going to lose oxygen before it gets to the brain. So this once was the ductus arteriosus, which we'll learn when we do fetal circulation. And it's a remnant, and you'll see this on your hearts a lot. And it's a ligament structure. Okay, so it's pretty neat that you can see that. So then now look at this picture. You already know you're in the right atrium. How do I know that? Because of this. The coronary sinus drains the coronary veins back into the heart. And there's another thing there called the coronary sinus. And see the other thing called fossa ovalis? That once was a foraminal valley in the fetus. So the baby had a hole between the two atria. So either condition, a patent ductus or an open foraminal valley never closed, creates a syndrome called the blue baby syndrome. It's blue because it's sad, right? No, it's blue. It's blue because it was an offspring of the blue baby. They had a baby. They're still around, the blue baby. I didn't realize that. But what it is you're sloshing 50% oxygenated and 50% deoxygenated blood together. So the baby has an issue. If it doesn't close off and over time it doesn't, they have to surgically go in and do it. And there was a great movie written about the ductus from Georgetown University Medical School. I think it was what God created, or God's creation was made the movie. And it talks about this because, huh?
It was on HBO.
Yes. And it's still around. If you go on Netflix, you'll find it. But it is a good movie. It's kind of like a tearjerker, but it's a good movie. And it talks about, in the early 90s, you never touch the heart because God created that. So if a baby was born with a patent ductus, it died. So this surgeon, he was a German surgeon, he would induce these on dogs and then figured out a way to close it. And he had stumbly fingers, so he couldn't get his big fingers behind to do it, and he couldn't see. So his lab assistant, who only had a high school diploma, but was like a genius with his fingers, he could do the procedure without even thinking about it. And he would tie off these patent ductus. So the day finally comes, they're going to do it on a real baby, and it's all of the, watching surgeries in the operating room at Georgetown Med. And he's losing the baby. He can't get in there to do this. And they wouldn't let the assistant in because he was black. Good reason why, right? Jackasses. Because he was black. All right? You look inside, we're all the same. So now, he goes, he stops the surgery, he runs out screaming, and he gets him in. He comes in, done. Baby lives. Later in life, as time went on, he was granted a PhD because of his ability. And a whole wing is named after him at Georgetown Med. And he taught every vascular surgeon that technique in their residence. So it's a fantastic story. But it's a true story that they wouldn't touch this stuff Some those are so, you can't touch them all. Okay? But knowing the hot spots, you know where you are just by looking without seeing anything else. As soon as I see this and this, I know I have to be sitting in my right atrium. And you're going to be like that in a week after you learn. Okay? So it looks like a belly button, that looks like a hole. That's how you know the difference. And they're near one another. So when we go into the open heart now, why in this case this is a female heart, not a male? What's the deal? Huh? How'd you know these? It's a broken heart. It's a broken heart. I had a class one day, they Google it, they put on there. Like, coming up with good answers. Oh, it's different. Yeah, you're close, you're close. And I finally go, you give up? They're like, yeah, it's broken heart. If it was a male, there'd be none. That's why I was speechless. Okay, there you go. So it's broken out. And here you can actually see the myocardium, which is the true cardiac muscle. Whereas in the atria, you're mainly made up of a lot of pectinate muscle, which is able to expand pretty big. But the atria expand and just contract down. And they don't push against a lot of pressure. Where the ventricles push, especially your left ventricle, your left ventricle has to constantly push against a minimum of 80 millimeters of mercury pressure to push it over to get it into the aorta. Minimum. That's normal blood pressure. Someone with hypertension, you can be pushing against 130, 140. Now we're going to learn eventually how that's going to damage the heart. That was the silent killer, okay? So we look inside now. We see all the same parts on the outside. Now we look at the inside, and there's your superior inferior vena cava. We know that. Descending aorta, ascending arch, descending. Then here we have our first valve, and its name is a tricuspid. Why tri? Because it has 3 cusps. 3. And it's known, the tricuspid and the bicuspid are going to be known as atrioventricular valves. Why would I say that? Because it's separating 2 chambers. The atrium from the ventricle. That's its job. Okay? So now you know that. And notice we have little strings attached to it known as chorda tendineae, and they hook to these ridges, which are muscles known as the papillary muscle. And where these muscles root, they make ridges in the wall, which is known as the trabecular carne. That's the same on both sides. The name don't change. Right? Carne means what? Meat. So ridges in the meat. That's what it's saying. It's all saying to you. Why do we have those ridges? Well, because they create turbulence in the blood to spiral it, to give it more force. So you want that. So, what do you think they do? Do they open the valve, or do they keep it closed when the heart's working? What do you think the trabecular carne and papillary do? Not the trabecular, the chorda tendineae and the papillary do during the contraction phase. They keep it closed. Because you realize how much, these are one-way valves, okay, like some of your friends, one-way streets, okay, one-way valves. So in other words, they work on pressure. Pressure pushes against them, they open. Think of when that ventricle contracts, how much pressure is blowing back against those valves. That if something wasn't holding them shut, they would blow backwards. And when they blow backwards, then you have regurgitation. So you're regurgitating the blood from one chamber back to the other, which is a pneumonia. Okay, so that's what regurgitation is. So that's their function. Keep this closed. And that's the first sound when they close, called the lub. When these other ones close, it's the dub. So lub dub is the sound. Lub dub. So lub is the closing of the AVs. Alright? So now the blood comes in, and it only has one way to get out. And I'm going to go out through the pulmonary trunk. Now these valves here, the aorta and the pulmonary, are known as semilunar valves because they're half moon shaped, hence semilunar. And there's no strings hooked in. So how can you screw those up? You know, a string's going to hook to the bicuspid and tricuspid, but not the aorta and pulmonary. So how could you ever call an aortic valve a mitral valve? You can't. Because that don't look the same. It has no strings. And if we look at this side of the house, on this right side, the two valves that belong there are pulmonary and tricuspid. They belong on the right. So when you're learning this stuff, keep them on the right. On the left, because now we're going to blow through this, we're going to go into the pulmonary trunk, pulmonary artery, lungs, and then I'm going to return back to 4 pulmonary veins. Notice they're red. So the pulmonary vein, high in oxygen. And I pour into the left atrium. Then I'm going to drop down to the bicuspid or mitral valve. And again, you're going to have to go contaminate, capillary, trabecular in that chamber. And then when I'm going to leave this, when the ventricle beats, I'm going to push out through the semilunar aortic valve into the aorta. Bless you. One more for good luck. So you got that? So not only did you learn about some parts of the heart, you actually learned how it's moving through it. So if you keep tracing this thing over and over again, how it moves through it, you learn the parts of the heart. So what was the only thing that changed names? The valves. So if I'm entering the pulmonary trunk, I must be a pulmonary valve. If I'm entering the aorta, I must be an aortic valve. So that's a giveaway to you. And I remember tricuspid from by, because I try it, then I buy it. So the try's on the right, the buy's on the left. You try it before you buy it. And that's how you remember that. Right? You date him a while, he sucks, you get rid of him. I tried him out, he sucks. I'm not buying him, I'm not marrying him. Am I wrong? Even young fellas, he's quiet alone too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I heard the big mouth got in, so oh my God. So there goes the peace and quiet in that section.
Have fun.
Yes. It was loud, we could hear a pin drop already yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wait till she gets comfortable.
Oh yes. So then we have a wall in between the septum. So it's kind of like if you kind of remember your root words, it kind of makes sense. Got it? So how would you trace a drop of blood from vena cava to, let's go here. Look at that, isn't that cool image? How do you trace a drop of blood from vena cava to the aorta? Well, it's simple. So you have the superior, inferior vena cava, and coronary sinus drain into the right atrium. Okay? It drains to the right atrium. Look here. Is that the one that you had help you out? Okay. So here we are. So we'll start here in case so we have the right. Let's do it right. We have superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and the coronary sinus. And they're going to drain into right atrium. And then across from the right atrium, we're going to go into the right ventricle. But how am I going to get there? Through the tricuspid. And these would be AV valves, separating these two chambers, correct? So now from there, the right ventricle, I'm going to go into the pulmonary trunk. Into the pulmonary arteries, to the lungs. And at this point in time, my oxygen levels are low. And what valve do I go to here?
Pulmonary.
Pulmonary. And these will be known as the semilunar. Now, of course, if you want, you can add here tendinae and papillary, trabecular. If you want to, in here you can also add, besides coronary sinus, fossa ovalis, So your pots are there if you want to add that. But this is just doing the trace and the drop. So that's my right side. Okay? So let's come over here now. Here we are back at the lungs. And now I'm going to come in through 4 pulmonary veins. And from the 4 pulmonary veins, I go into the left atrium. And of course from left atrium to left ventricle. And what valve do I pass through here? It's another AV valve. And what's its name? The bicuspid. Or mitral. Either name is accepted. Then from the left ventricle, I'm going to go to the aorta. And what would I go through? Aortic valve. Which is a semi-loop. And then eventually it comes all over the back and starts all over again. But there you go. There's tracing a drop of blood from the cavity to the aorta. Yes.
What's the evolutionary purpose of having a 4-chamber heart? Is it because because of our blood volume and body size?
Correct. Blood volume and it's oxygenates better than a 3-chamber heart. And the reason, if you look at a cat and dog, they only have coming off their arch, cephalic and the left subclavian. They're on all 4s, so the blood can get to the brain easier. We stand upright, so we need to have a common carotid on each side coming right off, which is kind of the brachiocephalic on the right becomes the right common carotid and the right brachiocephalic. So each side has almost a direct route off our arch to keep the oxygen levels to our brain because we stand upright.
The giraffe's heart must be like the blood, like its own carotid.
It's got a longer way to go, yeah.
Sorry, just curious.
No, but that's a good point. That's the evolutionary stuff, which we don't have time to really get. You know, so I mean, if you took comparative anatomy, you'd go into that more, like URI has that. But there you go. So in other words, when we beat from this right ventricle and I land up here with my left atrium, that is right-sided heart beating, right? Right-sided, which is pulmonary circulation. And when you beat from the left ventricle and end up at the right atrium, this is left-sided heart beating, which is systemic. Systemic circulation. So not only did you just cover the heart, how it moves the blood, you cover 2 circulatory routes at the same time. So when you leave the left ventricle, that's going to the body. That's systemic. When you leave the right ventricle, that's going to the lungs. That's pulmonary. It's as simple as that. I want to, before we run out of time, let's do attendance because I have a tendency to forget to do this stuff. And that's great because we verification of student. Okay, so I'm going to do 220201 first. So if you're in the 02, you're not going to get your name, and you shouldn't. First, we have Melissa Audrey, and you're here. She's here. Stephanie Botkin, and Natalie Booker-Ferry. And Deanna's here. Nicholas is here. Destiny is writing this. I said it right 2 days. I'm here. Brianna Fell, you are Mariana Fernandez, way in the back, late as usual. Allison Ferrigno, Nathan's here. Milan Jimenez, Melian, or is it I there? Sorry. Autumn Lincoln, and Katrina Martin. Ashley Moore, there she is. And Alexis Mulvey, right, Alexis. Karina Nunez, more familiar faces. Evelyn Contreras, I don't have to say all the names, do I?
I have two last names.
I know. Almeida. And Mary Catherine, I must be right. Kate. And Whitney, where's Whitney? There you are. Morgan Ryan.
Right here.
Hey Morgan.
Hi.
Diego's here. Amanda Testa. Amanda? Man, they missed the first class one. And Emily. Yes, I can pronounce the last name. All right, so that's who's here in this section. We call the O2 section. Anna.
Here.
Here. Anna Alpha. Okay, Brianna Balmer.
Here.
All right. And then Claire Dot. I'm sorry. And A. Irvin. You like to be A, right?
Yes.
And Jeffrey Rodado. And Kristen Leon.
Yeah.
Leon.
Leon.
And Pavua Loa. Yes, and Amber Lucent. That's why I got the cool name. And not cool Amber Lucent, because Amber's like C2. Lucent, Nadia Malki. That's Amber.
Nadia.
And Jessica. Brandon. Kendall Peterson. Samantha Scott, I'm not here. Something's wrong. Marissa Sereno. Luis is here, and Nick, all right, anybody I didn't call?
But you didn't call my name.
I did, well, I know who you are, I didn't call.
She's here. I heard that.
I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm not gonna go crazy. Pronouncing that name. Okay. So at this part of the week, you missed 2 in a row.